My name is Alexandra, no I, and this is an audio chronicling of 40 reflections in the 40 days leading up to my 40th birthday. While I am speaking from my own perspective, I invite you to join me in reflecting, implore you to share with friends who may also benefit from this type of reflection, and simply extend the offering of an opportunity to be your best and most authentic self. Episodes in this 40 and 40 series will typically be less than 15 minutes and end with a question for you to ask of yourself. Please subscribe and return to join me in this journey as we build momentum along the way. Here we go. Memories don't live like people do. That's actually from Traveling Man by Mos Def. Although to find it, you typically have to look up DJ Honda. But anyhow, I've been thinking about memory lately because in conversations with a newer friend and in conversations with a longtime friend, they point out, actually I think both of them use the term like impeccable in describing my memory. Mind you, my memory is very fallible. I can forget what I am saying mid-sentence, and I have been known to do so on a very regular basis. But when it comes to emotional memories, and even saying emotional memories, I should say memories tied to a strong emotion, those types of things I do tend to recall very well. When it comes to dates, numbers, that's when I also see that I can remember things very precisely, very crisply. Not to say that I'll remember everybody's birthday, that's why tech exists, but like I can remember when I had my first menstrual cycle. I can remember when I lost my virginity. Depending on which way you're talking about, I can tell you the date, for the different times I lost different kinds of virginity, I'll say. But and then I can approximate very well too in terms of, I may not be able to tell you the month, day, year for certain things, but I can definitely tell you the month and the year. If I can't tell you the day, I may be able to recall what we were wearing. I had a conversation with another longtime friend recently, and we were talking about, the day we met, and there was recollection of the outfits. And so it is interesting how the mind works and what we can and cannot remember, and then the why we can or cannot remember. Think about, even the concept of people who, they have a strong emotional tie to something that happened on a given day, but if there's a negative connotation, they may not be able to remember it for self-preservation purposes. So that can work a lot of ways. And, again, like there are people who another thing that I can remember that people sometimes are surprised by lyrics. I learn lyrics to songs. I love music, and I know a lot of songs word for word. And even when I was getting more into performing my poetry, and I was kind of looking around at the way that other people were doing their thing, and I was like, okay, I need to start memorizing my poems, because sometimes holding a book in your hand works well, but sometimes not as much, especially depending on the type of emotion you're trying to convey. So if you want to have your hands free, having your work memorized goes a long way. But anyhow, I would have such trouble memorizing my work, and it was like Alexandra, why can you remember hundreds of songs, maybe thousands, but it's this whole trial and tribulation for you to remember the words or the lyrics to something that you wrote yourself? And so, I try different methods and tips to kind of work around that. But it's just so interesting how there are some things that we can remember with the greatest of ease, other things that we really have to work at. Even if you think about school, like some people can remember those rote facts without a problem, and then other people have to go this extra mile to remember capitals or the dates of historic events. Or don't get me started on scientific formulas like algebra. I got that. Chemistry, whoo, another matter entirely. But how does your memory work? Do you have a good memory? What types of things are easier for you to remember than others? What's hard for you to remember? Does whether or not it has an emotional connection for you make it easier or more likely for you to remember the details?